Welcome to Commanders Training Camp 2022. We have you covered every day of camp from the team's facility right here in Ashburn, bringing you this exclusive coverage of practice, interviews with your favorite players, and access like you are not going to find anywhere else. Now, on today's show, the first preseason game, it is in the books, albeit a 23-21 loss to the Panthers, but it takes us one step closer to the start of the games that count. So what did we learn from the game on Saturday, and what will the team be focusing on this week as we prepare for a trip to Kansas City? A couple of rookies had impressive NFL debuts on Saturday. Running back Brian Robinson Jr. broke off some nice runs and got into the end zone. And quarterback Sam Howell found the end zone twice. We'll talk about what to expect from these young guys in the team's second preseason game against the Chiefs. And coming off his first career Pro Bowl season, defensive lineman Jonathan Allen is looking for another monster season in 2022. We'll talk with our All-Pro about how things are going so far in camp and what he is seeing from the youngster rookie Phidarian Mathis. And our guys, Logan Paulson and Santana Moss, will take you to the practice field to watch what is going on and tell you firsthand why it's important and what they remember from their days at camp. It is the closest that you can get to camp without actually being here, and we're bringing it all to you right now on Command Center Camp Coverage, presented by the inaugural Commanders Fan Cruise. Setting sail March 26, 2023. Reserve your spot at www.commandersfancruise.com. This is exclusive access to Washington Commanders training camp at the park here in Ashburn, Virginia, and we're giving you daily updates on what is happening out on the practice field. We'll be showing you look-ins at what's going on throughout the show, so we are so glad you could join us. Julie Donaldson here, along with Logan and Santana. Guys, we saw the team for the first time on the field, not going up against each other, which is always so nice to say, to get that hit against somebody besides your teammate on Saturday. What was your first early impression, Logan?
I mean, obviously there were some things that could have been better, but I think as a whole, I think with the way training camp's been going, I was pretty impressed. I was ever so slightly disappointed with the defense, but I thought they did some really good things, especially in the front. And I think, offensively they showed some nice promise. So, all in all, I think a positive net outing.
Yeah, I was pleased. I was pleased just to know that they played competitive football, from the ones to the last guys on the field. And that's what you want to see. You want to see your team go out there and compete at a high level. I think they all did that. And it gives you something to go back and watch film and say, okay, this is where we now need to take the second game to.
And watching film, not just practice. Yeah. It's great to be able to see how they hold up again against somebody else. Let's get to our top storylines. This is presented by Bank of America, the official bank of the Washington Commanders. Ever since he arrived here in Washington, we've been anxiously awaiting the debut of our new QB1, Carson Wentz. And as we got it on Saturday, he did not play a lot. We'll likely see more of him this coming Saturday against the Chiefs. We're going to talk about what we might see from him working on at training camp this week to prepare for it. We saw a rookie class get their first taste of NFL action, and we saw some really nice things from a couple of guys on offense. Third-round pick out of Alabama, running back Brian Robinson Jr. ran for 26 yards and scored the first touchdown of the Commanders' era. Quarterback Sam Howell threw for 145 and ran in 2 TDs of his own. Definitely memorable debuts for the rookies. The defense made some pretty good plays, forcing a fumble by Panthers quarterback Baker Mayfield. The defense held Carolina to under 100 rushing yards and kept them scoreless in the second quarter. Head coach Ron Rivera said there is still work to be done coming off of Saturday's 23-21 loss, but was happy with the play of his new QB.
Well, I thought he threw the ball well. I thought he threw it where he was supposed to. He threw a very catchable ball and delivered it on time. I thought he went through his progressions the way he needed to. Thought he handled the huddle well. Thought he got the calls out. Did the things that we hoped he would do.
I know you have to go back and watch the tape, but was there anything you noticed at first, because it's a game situation, a little bit different from practice, good or bad?
Yeah, I thought it was different from practice. I mean, I thought, our offensive line protected him, gave him a chance to throw the ball, and he did. He threw the ball effectively.
Carolina, at one point, they were having success converting third downs. I know last year that was a situation for us. In today's game, was it more about not doing a ton, not showing a lot of things that you'll do in the regular season on third downs, or it was just more guys not executing the way you want the defense to be executed?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's preseason. You got to keep it super vanilla, not going a whole ton of play calls. But I think we can do what we do better. I think I had a third down in there that I know I could have played better personally, but yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, we got to keep it vanilla, but I think we can execute a little better.
It wasn't perfect, but it was good to kind of get our feet wet a little bit offensively for one. Slower start, unfortunately, but I thought that third drive was good for us to kind of get out there, stay on the field, convert some third downs, finish in the end zone like that. So as far as that went, I thought that was okay. Obviously, a loss is never fun, but I thought there's a lot we can learn from on both sides of the ball that were good for us.
Let's dig into some of these storylines. So let's start right there with none other than Carson Wentz. He seems kind of calm and cool, glad to kind of get that first out. And I kind of love that he's not getting booed. I mean, because that just goes to show how competitive it is in the NFC East. And I think that's more a compliment to our fan base than anything. You come in here from the Eagles, we do not like you. What did you make, though, of his performance? I mean, I think it's probably expected. It took a little bit of time to get into rhythm, but we did see them kind of come together a little bit, Logan. And
some of those rhythm issues aren't his fault necessarily. I think, obviously the fumble's a big deal. Like, I like the play call on the first third down to the tight end Armani Rogers, and just a little bit of an overthrow, but a good throw, good process there. And then I like that he kind of worked through the rest of the game, checking the ball down, making some plays. I think he might have missed one read to my eye, but other than that, I thought a very solid performance.
Yeah, strong performance by him. I think one of the things I want to see more of is just how he goes on to the next play. Forget what he done the play previously and go on to the next one, and he did well. I think when you're looking at some of the things that we heard coming into camp, or when camp first started, a lot of folks was, rumbling and whispering that, they wasn't pleased with what they saw. But you can see every week he's gotten better. He's gotten more, dialed in with what we're doing. And it's all about just knowing what you got going on instead of being out there thinking. And you can see he played that game without, he processed everything well.
I kind of can't wait until we actually see the game plan fully in action and we see him take advantage of really the arm and just kind of really stretching the field as well. But offensive coordinator Scott Turner called what he was calling, not to give everything up, but just trying to get something going there. We did see some of the rookies come in and really splash too. Yeah. Brian Robertson Jr., he told me afterwards, he's like, I wasn't expecting to get in the end zone that early on. And he was like a little bit like, where's the ball? I need to keep that, But he seemed kind of like, this is just what I do. Meanwhile, Sam Howell had the same approach. This is just what I do. You shouldn't really be surprised by what they do. What did you make of the rookie, Santana?
I was impressed, but I wasn't so as, when it comes to where these guys come from, especially B-Rob, think about it. He's an Alabama guy, They practice like pros, and they play like professionals on the collegiate level. So for him to come out here and get his first, pro debut and perform that way, man, I was more than pleased, because just knowing that when you're a rookie, I've been a rookie, and I know even my second year, I felt like a rookie at times. So those guys was calm, they was composed, and they went out there and just, put in work. And just to see Sam Howell, remember last week's show, you asked me what rookie that I was looking forward to. He was one of the rookies I was looking forward to seeing. Came out, played with poise, and went out there and executed our offense. When I saw the score at one point in time, I'm like, oh man, he got to come in here and play now with this score like this. And before you know it, we was in the thick of things again. So it was great seeing both of those guys, both our top draft picks, go out there and perform that well.
I mean, it made a preseason game, which again doesn't the winner loss. It made it really exciting for fans watching too, because it gave you life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
gave you something to look forward to too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think anytime those young guys play well, it motivates the fan base. And I think specifically with regards to Sam Howell, I think it's always great to see him perform at such a high level, because you don't know. You don't know till those young guys get out there, to see him execute, to see it not be too big for him. Again, there's some things he could have done better, like they all could have done, but really solid performance by both those guys.
We'll see Sam Howell again over the next few games, and hopefully that's it, because it's going to be Carson Wentz's show. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball. You could say that there may be a couple of miscues. You could say there's some really great plays, both sides. Yeah. You're not totally scheming again, but what was the overall assessment? Because it's the first time we get to see them do some live tackling as well.
Yeah, well, I think from a live tackling standpoint, I think they did an excellent job. I don't think any missed tackles that I can remember. A guy that jumped out in that department was Derek Forrest, did a great job. Jamin Davis did a great job taking on blocks. And again, just very, very solid performance across the board from the front specifically, right? There was some kind of miscommunications, some leverage issues on the back end that I think can be addressed, and that's why you practice. Again, they didn't prep for this defense. They didn't prep for that offense the way you would in a normal week, so that's important to understand. But again, I think, were there some disappointing things? Yes, but on the whole, I think it's a step in the right direction.
I think it was typical miscues that you're going to see in the preseason from any group. The older guys, the young guys, you're going to have those miscues. But one of the things that I will hop on is just for that particular style of play that we want to see from our defense, we got to see them finish. And one of the things about finishing is getting off the field on third down.
Right.
And I'm sure going forward, we're going to hear more of that from the coaches. They're going to be harping that week in and week out. Look, we have them where we want them, but we have to get off the field because now you extending plays. Now you guys are more tired. Now we got to bring a fresher guy in there. We don't want to have to go through that stuff, especially when we expect our defense to be the tone setters.
I hated having to ask Coach that question afterwards. Like, what do you make of third down conversions? Just because it was something that they really wanted to focus in on and really improve on from last year. And he said it's not so much third down. He's like, he was really disappointed with second down.
Sure.
That got them in those situations.
They got some weird runs in there, some difficult situations that, again, when you're in 3rd and 3 in the NFL, everything's at the disposal for the offense, right? So I don't care how good of a defensive coordinator you are, that's putting yourself in a bind, and that's just simply better execution on second down. So I totally agree with Ron. That's something they can get corrected. Excuse me.
So how much weight should we really put into it? We're going to discuss a little bit later in the show. We're going to tell you fans of all the emotions that you have, just where they should be teetered into as well. But we are getting closer to the season opener, and that's against the Jacksonville Jaguars. That'll be at home on Sunday, September 11th, 1 p.m. Tickets start at $46 while supplies last. So get your official Ticketmaster verified tickets at commanders.com/tickets. Command the stands. And keep it here because when we come back, All-Pro defensive lineman Jonathan Allen is going to hang out and talk with us. We find out how camp is going and what his expectations are for the season. And Logan and Santana, they are heading down to the field right now as we speak to bring you the field pass. This is Command Center camp coverage. We'll only be away for 60 seconds, but we are showing you practice the entire time. We don't want you to miss it.
This one's for every NFL fan whose fan cave is more like a fan corner of a guest room closet. You've compromised enough. Pepsi Zero Sugar.
You fired up the grill for one hot dog? Seriously?
Hot dogs, better with Pepsi.
Welcome back to Command Center camp coverage presented by the inaugural Commanders Fan Cruise, setting sail March 26, 2023. Reserve your spot at www.commandersfancruise.com. Time for your field pass presented by FedEx, where now meets next. Logan and Santana are down on the practice field. Guys, what are you looking at today?
Thanks, Julie. All right, today training camp's kind of winding down, but there's still some good stuff to get out of these drills today. Today, number 78, Cornelius Lucas, is back in the mix. He's finally at practice. He's missed this whole kind of training camp. I think that's a huge deal, man, getting that depth back on the offensive line.
It's a great deal. I think it's great for him, too, just getting back out there, be able to get the feel of things. I mean, one of the things I hate about when you looking forward to being a valuable asset to this team, training camp, you can't go out there and get those reps. So it's very important for him to get started now so we can, have some kind of insurance that he's going to be ready for us during the regular season.
Yeah, and he's one of the best backup left tackles in the NFL. Backup swing tackles, really.
Yeah.
Swing basically means you can play right and left, which is a very unique skill set. So it'd be nice for him, I think, to get some reps in the game against Kansas City coming up this week, if he's healthy, if he's ready to go.
He'll look a little gingerly.
Yeah.
He's light stepping out there, but it's just great to see his body out there, getting some work in.
Yeah, and again, this drill right here that they're working right now is a carded run period. So what they're going to do is they're going to go through a carded period. Something's drawn up on that card that Coach Del Rio Jr. is holding up there, and they're going to kind of say, this is the defensive front we're expecting at practice today, and that's how we're going to get lined up. And again, it seems kind of methodical and kind of boring, but it's so important for these guys to get kind of the answers to the test before it happens.
No doubt. One of the things it's like almost having that walkthrough period. You know what I mean? You have that period where you go out there and we're going to walk through this stuff so we can get it done when the live bullets start. You know what I mean? And the live bullets in this case, it's going to be in practice going against the other guys. So it's always a great period just to go through it. Like I say, we do it on our end. These guys do it over here. It's great for everybody.
Yeah, and I think I do a little coaching with high school football, and like this period is almost just as important. So the guys know what to do, so they can go and execute at a high level. Exactly to your point. Then we move over to Carson Wentz, Taylor Heineke. They're just doing throws on air again. Just kind of getting the body loose, getting the body warmed up, especially coming off the game, just kind of getting back in the swing of things.
Which is so important. I mean, it's Monday. These guys just played Saturday. I'm sure yesterday was one of those days where they kind of like tried to get the body flowing with some kind of weight room action and probably a little walk or jog out here lightly. But today is that day when you're really trying to make that body respond and say, hey, we got to get back into the thick of things. There's still training camp. We have another game to get ready for come this weekend.
And what'd you think of Carson in his first outing, Tana? Like, how do you think he looked?
I'm not big on, shooting the wide right now, but it's early. It's preseason. I think when you look at what we've been saying all camp long, it was definitely an improvement in the right direction.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think he took some steps forward of just, I'm big on layups. I'm one of those guys, I love seeing him take a chance at the things that was given. You know what I mean? One of the things Bill Parcells always said, take advantage of what they can't stop you at. And that's what he did. He took advantage of what was open instead of trying. I mean, we took a couple of shots downfield, and those guys had a chance to make some plays at the ball. But he took advantage of what was given, and we had some success with it. So now moving forward, we have something to really build from.
Yeah, and I love this drill that they're working right now. Again, just part of the process of getting loose. Coach Zampesi's out there, and they're kind of working drop back with a free rusher, kind of how to step up, how to evade, how to check to make sure the rush isn't going to get you. And now they're in transition to the wide receivers, obviously working some chemistry there. They're probably going to hit routes on air next. And we've talked at nauseum about why that's so important.
Yeah.
But it was good to see Carson connect with Terry a little bit this weekend. And that all starts in this period right now.
Yeah, it was great to see Terry get a catch. I was looking to see the young fella Dawson get in there action too. He overthrew him a little bit. I'm not sure who to blame. I think Dawson kind of,
right?
Yeah, but I think Dawson kind of flattened his route up a little bit, and Carson was trying to show him where he needs to be at. In that little hole or whatever. But like you say, this is preseason. This is camp. We're going through some of this stuff now, so we can be ready. Come week one.
And then another important thing to note here is like right now they're going to do routes on air with the wide receivers. The tight ends, there's only 2 of them healthy right now.
Yeah.
So they're down here with the offensive line in the run period, and both those young men did a great job. But again, they're not going to be getting those repetitions with the quarterbacks, right?
Yeah.
Because they got to make sure they know the run stuff. That's where they're going to be a big feature of this offense. But again, their guys are going to be big features of this offense, but they're not getting the reps right now with the quarterback.
How is that for you? I'm gonna ask you because you're a guy that did a lot of that stuff, and you was very good at the block, the run game aspect.
Thank
of
you,
it.
Santana.
And you caught the ball pretty well when they gave you opportunities to. You know what I mean? They gave you a lot of those tight end pop passes. I remember you doing a lot of those, man. But how was that period for you when you didn't have to worry about running routes? You could come down here and kind of like running, to me, is blocking is easy.
Yeah.
You know what what was that like for you?
Of course, you're a receiver. You think blocking's easy. I think this period, it was maybe the most important part of my day.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're just sharpening your techniques, honing stuff in. What is your assignment? I think everyone sees just kind of a big mash of people colliding together. But, hey, if it's outside zone away from the tight end, I got to cut off that C gap, right? What's my footwork for that? Is it tight zone? Is it wide zone? Hey, do they bring a safety down in rotation? Is that my guy? Is that someone else's guy? So, again, I think this period is very, very important.
Yeah.
And, again, that's how I made my livelihood. Yeah. So, obviously, like I'm going to say that. But, again, if I'm doing this period and not getting reps with the quarterback, you better believe after practice that day, I'm getting some touches on the football.
And I ain't mean to cut you off. I don't really mean easy as in the aspect of, not knowing what to do or what to do. Yeah. I meant for the sake of not having to run that much when it comes to running routes. We out there running routes. We're tired. Your legs are dead. And you over there just doing, let me do this blocking technique instead of having to go out here and running, comebacks and curls and stuff.
That is very true. I will say, like, when I was here, you remember Coach Callahan? You were here with him, right? Instead of this period, we do a drill called pod drill, which is basically 5 offensive linemen and a tight end versus the defensive line, and it was full speed, and you just get as many reps as you could get in 5 minutes, and I would say I would prefer to run routes on air than do that drill. But this drill, this walkthrough, I'm all in on this.
Yeah.
Count me in. And then if we go over to here, the defensive backs, Maddie, obviously Benjamin St. Juste didn't play in the game, right?
Yeah.
But he's out here today.
Yeah.
I think that's a good sign to show where he's at, because I think he's going to be part of this defense.
Yeah, great sign. I was looking forward to seeing him in his first preseason action, but I'm not sure if that was just being cautious of, what he, experienced last year, or if it was something new. I heard it was something new that he had some tightness in the hamstring or something like that throughout the week. But regardless of what it was, I'm happy to see him back out here suited up, and hopefully we get to see him this week.
Yeah, and again, here they are working this route combination drill. And in this defense, defense, it's so important, right?
So
to get
important,
that
man.
communication, right? This guy goes in, number 2 goes in, number 1's going to follow, right? And vice versa. Number 1 goes out, number 2 comes out, whatever it is. That's what they're working on now. Obviously, it's important. Jack,
bro, you took it out of my. I was literally about to say it got to be important today because Jack is down there. So it's something going on about that, and some of the things that we saw on film. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? Look, it's early, but you want to get those things corrected now. We saw a couple of points that we made, on watching the film or breaking the film down where a guy or two made a look somewhere that they shouldn't have and got caught off guard. So it's great to go over that stuff now in practice.
I think that's a fantastic point because, Jack, Ron, everybody has said that they wish they would have played their leverages a little bit better, matched the concepts a little bit better, and this is the kind of foundational piece of that.
Yeah.
So you got to love that they're working on that right now. And again, I think the defensive backs, William Jackson III, number 3 right there, did a great job in the game, right? Looks way more comfortable, and this is all part of making it more comfortable, right?
Yeah, and that's one of the things you expect from a guy like that. Last year we was all scratching our heads just knowing what he got paid, but people get caught up into what guys are making and, screw what he's making. As far as being a playmaker, we know he can do that as well.
Right.
And I was looking forward to seeing him do a lot of that last year, but like we talked about earlier too, is it's one thing of saying that, okay, I'm a lockdown corner, and then you get out here and you have to learn a whole different style of play.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, everyone you talk to says he's getting more comfortable. We've seen it on film. We've seen it at practice. He looks like a guy who's really dialed in. And then we just talked about the offensive line working through their run stuff. But the defensive front, linebackers, defensive linemen, are now working through their fits. Because, again, in a gapped-out defense, everyone's got a gap. You need to know what's going on over there and how to fit those runs, right? Because we talked about today how Jamin's been more effective because he knows what to do. And this is where that starts, in the classroom right here.
And information is key. The more you know, the better you can go out there and react and play. And that's the thing about this game. I speak on alignment and assignment.
Right.
Because if you know that too, then your athletic ability comes into play once they, blow the whistle or they snap the ball. So that's one of the things I'm big on, seeing these guys being able to know that.
And then let's go over here to the offensive line. This is kind of a fun drill. Like, you don't see this every day. This is a Moscow special, right? The guys are going to start off on a knee. And what they're working on is just working from like a deep knee flexion angle, how to roll the hips and stay low while doing that. You see them right there on the ground there, Tana? And this is a tough drill. I used to hate this drill when we had to do this, right? Because it's so hard to roll your hips from that position. But again, it's teaching you a nice technique, how to bring the feet with the upper body and use your legs to impart force into the defender.
I never saw you guys practice this. This is like
a new thing for you.
Me learning this today is like I didn't know this even exist.
Yeah, this is an old school drill, and Matsko's an old school coach, but you like kind of the fundamental principles of this, right?
Yeah.
Working from a base, right? Rolling those hips through contact, and again, it's just kind of a technical element that's laying the foundation for what they're going to be doing later in practice. And I like every single person's gone through it. Mm-hmm. Chase Roulier, Wes Schweitzer, they've all done it. No one sits out, right? And I think that's also important, that Moscow thinks this is a really important drill for these guys.
Put that work in, no doubt.
Right, and I think it's also important to note that no Charles Leno out there today, no Norwell today, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's more of a vet day, right? Because for those older guys, you need those vet days.
Oh, I love those vet days, man.
What do you love about those vet days?
You put that hat on, man, you just feel refreshed. And you give yourself a chance to really, recover. I mean, people fail to realize, man, the effort that goes into us going out there and doing what we do on game days. And when you get a vet day, I remember being a young pup and I was getting vet days because I had an injury early in my career. So when you're much older and those bones are really now talking to you, it's great to get those vet days. But
dude, absolutely. And I think people don't understand, with receivers, you're running, it makes sense, like you're out there, like you said. But with those big guys, people are smashed into them, right?
They're getting rolled up on, man. It's a car crash every play for those guys. So.
And so they need to make sure they're taken care of, and especially because I thought Leno and Norwell both played outstanding in the game, very consistent. And, Brian Robinson's big run came off of a Norwell double team. So, again, you got to make sure those guys are ready for the season. So if they need those vet days, make sure they get those vet days.
Reward them. That's what you do. You reward the guys for going out there doing what they're supposed to do, their job.
And then over there, I don't know if you can see this, Maddie, but we've got Carson Wentz working with the receivers. And Jahan, in our interview last week, talked about how he needs to be working more from the slot.
Yeah.
He's getting routes on air from the slot today, right?
Yeah.
So, again, you played both, right? Not maybe more later in your career in the slot. But what are the differences between playing outside and playing in the slot?
Well, one of the things I could tell you from, that just obvious, playing on the outside, you have nowhere to go. You basically, if you release outside, that sideline is now the second defender.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? So now your DB or that cornerback can basically shield you to the sideline and make it hard for you to do anything. So you have to be efficient with what you're doing once you release outside, especially if you got man-to-man. If you got man-to-man, it's just you and him. But if it's a zone or a cloud, you basically cover by 3 people. Now in a slot, when you're in a slot, I have outside. I have wide to my left. I have wide to my right. I have a ton of field in front of me. So that's why I was trying to, let Dawson understand that.
Yeah, you did. You talked to him after a little
I understand you might not be comfortable with some of the things you asked of, but just know you have so much area, and that defensive back not knowing where you're going, make him think you're using all of it. You know what I mean? Because now he's gonna, crap his pants trying to make sure he cover ground. He wants to make sure that I don't get beat. So even if you have a tiny responsibility of getting open in this little space, make him think you're finna use the whole field. And when he craps, like I said before, craps his pants and try to, overexert himself to get to that area, you shut it down, man, and make yourself a nice, easy, get your job done easily without having to do so much.
Yeah, it was interesting. I thought that coming out of the interview, everyone says, like every player I've ever played with said, playing from the slot is way easier than playing outside. But he actually said,
he said it was tougher.
He said it was harder for him.
He said it was a little harder, and I think more so because he just hasn't, been comfortable yet. Once he realized, how he can use it to his advantage, then he'll see he'll get a better picture of it. I mean, I did it a lot in college, and that was something that was strange to me when I first got into the league, where here's a guy, I started my first year of playing ball my freshman year. I was only a third down guy in college coming in and playing primarily in the slot. You know what I mean? So, but, he'll get it,
He'll figure it out.
Time.
He seemed like a very smart guy in that interview.
Very smart.
And I think that's something that you can always bet on, right, is having smart football players. They're going to take care of you. They're going to get you in the right situation. I think that's what Ron's done a good job of that here.
Yeah.
Cam Curl, like when you talk to him, very smart dude.
He's getting the right guys, bro.
Smart guy. And that's important.
That's important to how you picking guys to be on your team. You know what I mean? That's something that I spoke about years before when I was here. Like, we didn't get the right guys to be, on this team. We just picking talent, and you don't pick talent. You pick the right guys that's going to basically do what you ask of them to do at all times.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of good stuff to check out here today. I mean, Tan, it's always fun watching practice with you. Learn something new every day. Julie, we're coming back up in a second, but back to you.
All right, thank you, guys. Let's talk a little more about the defense and our all-pro defensive lineman, Jonathan Allen. Allen inked a new deal before the start of training camp last season, and man, he showed that he was worth the investment, putting up a season that landed him in his first Pro Bowl and solidified his position as a leader on Jack Del Rio's defense. After the team held a practice at Joint Base Andrews, John stopped by to talk with London Fletcher and myself. It is our Pepsi Profile Pepsi, the official soft drink of the Washington Commanders. John Allen joining us now. Nice season. Well, first off, out here at Joint Base Andrews for practice, you being a military family, how important is it for you to come out here and just kind of show some love to those that serve our country?
It means a lot. I feel like it's easy for the veterans, the men and women who serve this country, to feel unappreciated at times. I don't think we do enough to support them. So anything that I can do and we can do as an organization to really come out here and just, nothing big, but just spend time with them, show them, we appreciate the sacrifices they made, and just let them be close to the team and interact with them. It's always a good time, so we enjoyed it.
John, this is your 6th season going into this year. You've gone through 6 training camps, 6 preseasons. What is it like, or what's the mindset for you going into tomorrow's preseason game?
Everything I'm doing up until this point is to get me ready against the Jacksonville Jaguars, as far as my pregame routine, my pre-week routine, game day. Every rep and snap I take is to get me ready for that opening season. I feel like as a younger guy, it's easy to let some of those things go and kind of, I don't want to say waste time, but not take advantage of every walkthrough that you have. I was talking to some of the younger guys out there today, like, this is a good time to work on your technique without putting the stress on your body, working on your first 2 steps, working on your pad level, just little things that become habits in the game time. So everything I do, I just try to put a point of emphasis on it and just make sure it's what I want it to be so I can be ready to come game week 1.
How do you want when it comes to tackling? Because that's one thing, you don't get to go full bore out here in practice, and you don't want to take out too many of your teammates as well. So where are you on that level of just getting out there in the preseason and be like, okay, I can tear right through this guy?
You might not be able to tackle in practice, but I think you can put yourself in good positions. If you put yourself in bad positions in practice, game time is going to be the same. But if you put yourself in good positions in practice, as far as utilizing the sideline, getting off blocks all the way, playing with good pad level, running to the ball, it's just things that you've done your entire life and this entire training camp that help get you ready for the first game. And obviously it won't be the same. It's nothing like tackling, but there's things you could do to help get you ready for it.
As you go into this season, you're coming off a Pro Bowl season, All-Pro season. You had a great year defensively, or as a defensive line, you kind of took a step back. What have you guys done this training camp to ensure that you get back to the level and beyond that you were 2 years ago as a unit?
I don't think there's anything special that we did. We just went to work every day, competed, worked hard, made sure we try to hold everybody accountable, and we're just working hard. There's no secret to it. Obviously, I feel like injuries kind of mess up the continuity that we had last year, but that's something that everybody has, every team goes through, and something you really can't account for. So we're just getting back to the chop block, not really worried about the expectations that everybody else puts on us, but the standards that we have for ourselves, and we're trying to meet each other's standards.
You had a change in the coaching staff for you guys, and to quite a few that might have been a little bit of a surprise, but here you march forward with Coach Z kind of taking over that room. How do you guys address something like that at this point in the season, knowing what's going to be asked of you going forward?
You know that football is football, and it sounds cold and ruthless to people on the outside, but I just told the young guys, this should be a reminder to never get comfortable. Nobody is safe in the NFL. From the minute you get into the NFL, you're being looked at to be replaced. They're looking to find someone who can do your job better and for cheaper. And that's just the fact of the reality of the world we live in, but we thrive in that situation. We love it. I love that competitiveness. So, it's unfortunate at the timing. I love Coach Sam. We talked after it happened. He's doing good, and he wished us well. But at the end of the day, we get paid to do a job, and regardless of the outside circumstances that we're being forced to deal with, we have a job to perform.
You have the Alabama headband on right now. You got two of your Alabama guys with you on the defensive line, obviously starting with Duron Payne. You two played next to each other, our second-round draft pick this year, Phil Mathis. What's it like having those guys with you in the meeting room and also in the trenches on the field?
It's really cool. I know what kind of guys I'm going to get when you draft from Alabama, mentally and physically. So I know Big Phil's going to be just fine. Payne, I played with him for 8 years, so I know what he's about. And it's just really cool. And it's just being able to have that camaraderie and that love of Alabama, be with you in the NFL.
How have you seen the rotation? Because with Chase out and Montez out, that D-line did have a certain rotation with them. We see Montez coming back here now. Where are you with the next progression of those guys? Because one thing Coach Rivera is always saying is they now have a lot of game time experience.
Yeah, that's definitely something that Z's going to have to manage. For me, I try not to get too caught up in the rotation because at the end of the day, I'm not in control of it. I just try to manage myself and what I know I can and can't do, and just try to give every rep I can. I try not to worry about how many reps I'm going to get in a game, but worry about what I do with the reps that I do have. And
that's why you got paid. That's why you are a leader, and that is why these younger players that you're talking to listen to you and follow your example. I feel a good feeling about this D-line. John, thanks so much for joining us and for coming out here. And, of course, much respect to the SEC. I'm going to put the bigger umbrella as a fellow Gator over here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Here's a look at some of the numbers John Allen put up during his Pro Bowl season last year. Of course, 17 games he played, 62 total tackles, 31 of them all by himself. The 9 sacks, that's what we really like to get from him. He was a little upset he didn't get to that number 10 as he feels that he just barely missed on that. So great work by John Allen last season. Of course, we'll expect just more of the same this year as we get into it. So let's talk a little bit about John Allen and his role on that defensive line there. Look, he got that new deal. Sometimes we hear guys will teeter off after getting a new deal and maybe ramp up before getting it, but not the case with John. What are you expecting from him? Is he kind of that guy? Will he be able to get basically the same number of tackles and sacks this year, the way that the system's built?
I think so. I think he's a guy that is just very motivated to be a good football player. When you have guys like that, they don't regress, they improve. And I think in the context of Jack Del Rio improving as a defensive coordinator, finding out what this group does well, I think that's just going to lead to more opportunities for John. And that's exciting for me to see.
I think John means business. From day one, this guy has been a leader vocally, and he showed, when it came to how he produced on the field. So it was rewarding to see him have that season, because I feel like once you have one, now you know what it takes, and he's going to be dialed in this year just to go out there and get that same taste in his mouth.
Absolutely.
If we talk about those guys on the interior, you have him, Duron Payne, Fedarian Mathis coming in here. What do you expect from the defensive front with them coming in together, and Duron Payne himself being in a contract year?
I think Payne looks to be in great form. He looks great, and I think the preseason game, you always wonder how guys are going to play against a different opponent. He he looked great. I mean, he looked great. John looked great, and I think Big Phil did exactly what he was supposed to do. He did his job at a very high level, looked excellent against the run. Obviously, can still grow up as a pass rusher, but having those three pieces inside, I think, makes that group kind of on the precipice of something special. And we didn't even talk about Daniel Wise, man. He had an outstanding game.
Look, they have a ton of guys that's going to probably contribute, to what they do. So I'm just hoping that, the same way they did things in the past when you had Ioannidis there, all those guys came in and played their parts and did well with their roles. I just saw Payne out there throwing the warm-up period. He was sprinting after one of his reps with another guy. And John Allen spoke on it like, you guys actually going to race right now during this period. So that just go to show you how much fun those guys are having right now with practice. When you're having fun like that in practice, game time is easy.
Sometimes we forget it's supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
It's football.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of work you have to put into it. There's a lot of stress that comes with it. But at the end of the day, it's supposed to be fun. And when you are having fun doing it the right way, hopefully the wins come through that as well. What about the defensive ends? And we know, Montez Sweat's off to a good camp. Chase Young, we're going to have to wait for. Right. But what did you see, in that preseason game that gives you faith on where they are in their growth and their next step?
I think it was really impressive to see Sweat. I mean, everyone's been talking about where he's at, and he just delivered. He was able to create a whole bunch of pressures, made some good offensive linemen look very average, and that's always important to see. And then obviously Casey Tuhill with some huge pressures in critical situations in that game. And then James Smith-Williams, I thought, was just Mr. Steady Eddie, Mr. Consistent, and that's what he's been for this group. So awesome to see all three of those guys play well. Now the question becomes, who's that fourth guy? Is it F.A. Obata while Chase is out?
I mean, I think you hit it dead on the head, man. It was great just seeing those guys going out there and execute. I think one of the things you want to always see is how that stuff from practice transferred to the field. And these guys have been everything that we expect in practice. We've been hearing it time and time again. The defense wins. The defense is, they have an edge on the offense. So to see those guys perform like that in the preseason game, although they didn't win, and I talked about that, that's just something that's going to happen over time. But it's all about finishing. And if they can put it all together and go out there and finish, then we'll see a better product. But the sky's the limit for the whole crew, definitely.
We have big hopes, big expectations for that defensive line. Can't wait to see them get after the quarterback this season as we do progress. Next up will be down in Kansas City, but we are making sure we keep you up to date throughout the entire year and throughout camp right here as well. Make sure you do not miss what is happening on Command Center. You can join myself, former tight end right here, and film room expert Logan Paulson. Of course, the other guy right here with me, 8 to the 9, Santana Moss, every day for your Commanders fix, your highlights, analysis, and inside access you will not get anywhere else. You can see every episode on our YouTube channel and on commanders.com. You can also check us out on NBC Sports Washington weekdays 5:30 and 10 p.m. Well, don't go away, because when we come back, we have some fresh takes about the first preseason game and what our guys want to see from the team as they prepare for week 2 of the preseason. A trip out to Kansas City to face off against Patrick Mahomes and company. Right after this 1-minute break, but of course, we are keeping the field cam up for you.
I told you long ago on the road, I got what they waiting for.
Introducing Nitro Pepsi. Smooth, creamy, delicious.
Another rock and roll weekend.
Burgers, better with Pepsi.
Welcome back to Command Center. Camp coverage presented by the inaugural Commanders Fan Cruise, setting sail March 26, 2023. Reserve your spot at www.commandersfancruise.com. Well, fans have been active on social media, so glad to have you out here. You can be out here today through Thursday. This is the last week officially of camp, and for those that are out here, here's what they're using with the hashtag HTTC. Finally out here getting to see Tress get going. front and center. Everybody loves some Tressway. Enjoy that. Getting the autographs on the footballs, getting the autographs out here. Some fans over at the game enjoying a cool, cold beverage, sending out happy birthdays to J.D. McKissick. Again, come tweet us, use the hashtag HTTC. Well, things can get pretty competitive out here at camp as well, both on the field and while playing cornhole.
Where my foot? Where can I step over? I can't go past this front. No, we're not playing. Okay. It ain't your game. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, this game. Yeah, this game. Oh! There it is. Hey, oh! Oh, my God. Oh, finish like that. Finish like that. Ah! I win. Let me get out of this. Oh. Come on, Revo. Come on, Revo. Come on, Revo. Oh my. Come on, Revo. Come on, Revo. Come on, Revo.
Time for today's Fresh Takes presented by Safeway, the official supermarket of the Washington Commanders. I'm going to tell on myself a little bit here. I don't think I played cornhole until well after college. I don't know how I got through the University of Florida having never played cornhole.
That is surprising.
Did you?
I'm not a big drinker or anything, never tailgated, so I'm not surprised for me, but for you, I thought, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Did you ever play cornhole earlier on?
I just played cornhole when my first time I was 37 years old.
Yeah, see, just the other day. Thank you. I appreciate that. I am not alone in this.
And now it's a sport. I saw it on ESPN.
Yeah, it's a sport.
Yes. It's crazy.
Dialed in.
All right. Well, we'll see. Maybe one day we'll get out there and see how well you go. Okay, let's get to some of the actual storylines we want to talk about now that we have some football in the books to actually discuss as well. Look, this is what you put in there. You go there and you want to evaluate and actually see how your team now holds up against somebody else, opposed to just going up against each other where you can't live tackle and everything. So what is the biggest thing that Coach Rivera now, Logan, is looking at from that game and saying this is where we need to maybe, hone in a little bit more in practice?
Yeah, I think it depends on what side of the football you're looking at, obviously. But I think if you're looking at the defensive side of the ball, one of the things that he's talked about in his post-game presser and then, around the building is just kind of working on leverages and making sure you understand how to pass off concepts, right, within the context of those leverages. So this is a perfect time to get that corrected. You're going up against Kansas City this week. They're going to challenge you quite a bit in that area, so let's make sure we're dialed in. Offensively, I think they want to see just a little bit more efficiency in terms of first and second down, but I think when comparing the two sides of the football, I think offensively you feel much better about where the team is at after the performance on Saturday.
I think it's quite simple. I think now you have something to really go from. You got a chance to play against someone other than ourselves. So everything that we did well, let's build. Let's build from here. Let's take what we did good and say, okay, we got to continue to do that consistently. Everything that we did bad, let's learn from our mistakes, and let's hopefully minimize that going forward. And that's on both sides of the ball, all three phases, actually.
It's something that I think people want to go oh my goodness, they missed this or they missed that. But even in the booth, London Fletcher was talking, saying you're still not totally installing the defense the way you normally would, or even the offense as well. So everything that has happened, it's kind of you got to put a little asterisk next to it.
Yeah.
But given that the players are now out there, you're kind of coming in here into the final week of camp. You're getting ready for the next preseason game down in Kansas City, knowing not too far away is the regular season. So kind of how do you balance all of that as a player, Logan?
Yeah, this is a tough time of year, I think, for sure, because half the roster's thinking about Kansas City like their life depends on it, and the other half is starting to think about Jacksonville. Obviously, this is kind of the major dress rehearsal game for this team in terms of we need to be ready for Kansas City. They're probably going to play a half, the starters I'm talking about now. But in terms of half the rosters might not be here soon. So it is a tough time of year. It's kind of coming to a conclusion, training camp, preseason, all that stuff. So it's interesting for sure.
Before I get to talking about how they handling everything, look, going into your second preseason game, you're already talking about breaking camp. that's beyond. I mean, when I was in my day, we didn't break camp until the preseason was over with. You know what I mean? So that's the great part about it.
With Kyle and Mike, like they broke it after the second preseason game usually.
It was still camp though.
That's
you know
true,
what I mean?
yeah.
It might be training camp, broke for the fans, but it's still training camp.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, you'll still be going in. You'll be gearing up for sure. It's just at one point they've got to like close it off so the fans aren't recording everything and giving away your your install so the Jags know how to scheme against you.
But to that point, though, I think what he said is is key. You got guys that's going to be on both sides of the fence. You got some guys that's going to be on one or the other. You know what I mean? You got a guy who might be treading water, then he knows that I have every rep counts. And the guys who just know that, hey, I'm trying to prepare myself, get myself closer to week 1 so I can go out there and be dominant.
If anybody leaves from that game because we lost, or maybe they didn't see everything that they wanted, how do you temper, people's emotions after preseason game number 1?
I mean, I think after preseason game number 1, it's basically a glorified practice. Like, I don't want to trivialize what preseason is, but that's what it is, right? It's just an opportunity for the coaches, for the training staff, for the scouting department to evaluate your guys against another team and see how they work against relatively live bullets, right? Getting dressed for the game, going out there, getting the calls from the sideline, all those different things. But it really is just a practice, Offense gets 20 plays, 2s get 20 plays, 3s get 20 plays, and that's how a practice would normally go. It's just in the context of a stadium on television.
Yeah, I know I can't say what I want to say, but chill the F out. That's what I want to say, man. I mean, just be for real,
I appreciate that, Santana. There you go. For anybody that's getting skewed one way or the other over who you want playing whatever position over anybody else, Tana said it best. And with that, we're going to close the show then. Thanks for joining us on Command Center. You always have that one-liner just to wrap it all up.
Oh, my God.
We will again be here tomorrow for you. This is the last week you have the opportunity to come out to practice in Ashburn. You have until Thursday to make sure you get here and see this team in person. We hope you do join us. Thanks for watching Camp Coverage Command Center. We'll see you tomorrow.